Welcome to another episode in the podcast put on by Helping Crisis 246, where we pretty much teach you what you can do in moments of mental or emotional crisis and where you can find help. Now, the series is not limited to dealing with only moments of crises, but we really teach you methods to deal with stress, to improve your decision making, and to enjoy overall better mental health. Because as I've been saying ad nauseum throughout the series, we have this misconception that mental health is only for those who've been diagnosed with a mental illness, and nothing is further from the truth. Because if you look up the definition for mental health, you realize it focuses on our social, psychological, and emotional well-being, how we handle stress, and how we make decisions. So in other words, how you cope with life. So that the series focuses on giving you the tools that are necessary to cope better with life, to break cycles and patterns of behavior you do not like or that don't serve you well, and to enjoy overall better mental health. I'm Michelle Russell, and I'm very passionate about the topic of mental health. And if you want to find out why this means so much to me, I invite you to watch episode 1. Now, today we are going to continue in our journey to the self. In other words, a journey of self-discovery, finding out who we authentically are and not who we learned to be because society said we needed to do this to fit in or to make money or to get a romantic partner or the many things society tells us to be or not to be in order just to survive in this world. And more often than not, we experience bouts of depression or even diagnoses of depression. We struggle with unhealthy habits and addictive behaviors, all because we're running from a part of ourselves, a part that the world told us wasn't good enough, or a part that we are ashamed of and we cannot face, a part that reminds us of pain from the past or from traumatic events we've experienced. And remember, I keep saying trauma isn't only about the big events, but it's that event that might have happened in your life that from that day forward, it changed how you saw yourself, and it changed how you saw the world and how you operated in the world. And so when we spend so much time running away from ourselves, we can end up engaging in all kinds of destructive behaviors just to survive and to survive the thing we are running from. So that the journey inward is to allow us to have this look at ourselves, to see who we truly are, to change the parts of ourselves we don't truly like or we wish to improve, and to heal our wounded. Now, continuing on that journey, I have with me today psychotherapist Nicollette Williams, who has a very unique and broad-based approach to therapy, which also involves looking inward, getting in touch with ourselves, but not just through talk therapy, but through various modalities. So I invited her here today to share with us why she uses the method and even to share with us some of her own healing journey. So I have with me today Nicollette Williams. She's a psychotherapist, in fact, a creative arts psychotherapist, because apparently there are different kinds, but she's going to explain all of that today. And her business is called
Creative Therapeutic Healing Services,
which is the same name for the IG page.
Yes.
But I'm going to put it up here so that you can always check out her IG page and follow. So we have to start at the top. What is the difference between a psychotherapist and a psychologist?
So, a psychotherapist uses different modalities such as family, such as creative arts, such as different areas that persons can express other than talk therapy, right?
Why though?
Because talk therapy is something that we do all the time. We talk a lot, right? We talk every day. But our bodies tell a different story sometimes. And even though psychologists and psychiatrists can help persons express themselves, their main interest is rather the subconscious, their main interest is rather the mental health area, their interest is the family area, their interest is the criminal area. But more so, psychotherapy, we look at the nonverbal aspect of that person, the subconscious part, the area that is not loud and big. So that's what psychotherapists do. Yeah.
Well, how do we? Okay, so the area that's not loud and big, but how is that even different to who you are? Explain to me how do you even reach to the area that's not loud and big? What do you call it? Does it have a name?
Well, you see, it's called psychotherapy. That's the first thing. But for me, being a creative arts psychotherapist, I use dance, drama, music, poetry, sound therapy, play therapy to help persons express themselves to heal, to feel better about themselves. Because as a person, we can mask very well, right? I can come in front of you and look the best. And, as Caribbean persons, we say, I'm good, I'm okay. But when you're in a session with me and other fellow psychotherapists, we're going to look at different areas as to what makes you feel good. And if it is that you keep surfacing that I'm good, I'm okay, we're going to use our modality that we specialize in to help you dig deeper. And then you end up realizing that actually I wasn't good. I actually was full of turmoil. I actually was hurt. I actually was sad. And that's where then we help you process that true feeling than the masked feeling.
So that when you say to verbalize the non-verbal parts of us, it is the parts we might not even be in touch with.
Correct.
So the deeper parts of ourselves that because we're out of touch with, we don't necessarily give expression to.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
But how can you, so how would, if I don't even know there are parts of myself I'm not giving expression to, how do I know I need to go to psychotherapy?
Good question. Okay, so let's just break it down in layman terms. Now, we function every single day. And sometimes we realize that even in functioning, we find that we're not functioning, right? So that's the main area that you need to reach out to the psychotherapist, because I can then help you figure out what is not functioning or what you're not managing with. I can help you or that child with emotional regulation. I can help you with quicker or easier decision making, because sometimes our subconscious, we suppress a lot from the subconscious perspective, and we just want to function, which is the conscious part of our brain. But subconsciously, when we realize that we're not functioning, that's the small main area that we need to actually focus on. So you come to me or another psychotherapist to help you look at that main area, that area that is not functioning. Because
give me an example of what not functioning looks like, because sadly people will think it's only if you're wrapped up in bed and can't go to school or work. What else does non-functioning look like?
Okay, so I work with children,
right?
And we know that children are in schools every single day. So say from 9 to 3, that child might function between 9 and 11:30, right before break time. After break time, the teacher reports to the parent that that child is being disruptive, right? And that 5 to 10 minute period, that teacher finds it really hard to settle that child, right? In that 5 to 10 minute period, that's that period that I can help that parent and that child to regulate and to function going back into the mainstream classroom. Because take away the condition, take away the different diagnoses that a psychologist or psychiatrist may want to diagnose a child with ADHD, ADD, oppositional defiant disorder, etc., etc. That area of that 5 to 10 minute period, that's where it can help that child regulate with easier decision making and coping skills. For example, that child may like drawing, right? And he or she, may find that going back into the mainstream class, the teacher says, head up your classroom book and please write your name. That child is all over the place. They're distracted. They're looking around. So how about I might help that teacher place a coloring book, basic, simple things. Place that coloring book on the table for that child to color. That regulates her mood or his mood. That reduces the dopamine that is there in their brain. Like they keep going, they're very hyper and energetic. That helps them focus in on what has to happen next in the classroom. Those small things, because we take those small 5 to 10 minute periods of dysregulation as this child is disruptive. This child needs to go and see someone else. But really and truly, that child just needs basic regulative skills. That's it.
All right, so let's carry into adulthood now.
Okay.
What are small signs?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to wait till it gets too big.
Correct.
What are the small signs that I'm probably not functioning as well as I should or used to?
Okay, so when we wake up every morning, someone has their regular daytime period where they might wake up at 6 o'clock. And they find that when they wake up on mornings, even to prepare to go to work, they find that there may be increased heart rate. They might have cold sweats. They might just want to lay in bed and do nothing, right? Unmotivated, right? And that person may immediately think that, oh, I'm depressed. Clinically, that's the word, but really and truly, you just don't have motivation, right? So using creative art psychotherapy, a lot of us Caribbean persons don't really like to play music anymore. We used to like to play a lot of music growing up. Our parents, our grandparents, we play music in the house. We know that it's time to wake up. Or the radio, the news we playing, right? We call it brass stats or so in Barbados. But like really and truly, I find that from persons coming to me, they don't have any audio stimulation to help them regulate early in the morning to prepare them for the day. That small increment of just listening to music, choosing your favorite kind of music to help motivate, to help regulate your mood, to help improve your mood, that there is the right time for you to actually delve into that and enjoy that moment so that then you can enjoy yourself throughout the day than finding yourself staying in bed slump or not eating or missing a meal. Even basic music, sometimes music fuels how we feel throughout the day. So having that in the morning helps you regulate. So that small increment as well for adults.
Does it count if you listen to music while you're driving? Maybe you didn't get to do it before you left the house, but
yes, that does count as well. Yeah.
So it can help to lift the mood,
yes.
boost motivation. But it's about choosing the songs that do that
Choosing
for
the
you.
songs because
Okay.
yes, we can have low days and high functioning days. And we as human beings sometimes if you're feeling sad or low, we want to go to listen to R&B love music or heartbreak music and all those
my heart.
you know, all those kind of music, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But coming to someone like me, we can process what those words truly mean for you. We can actually delve into what's the trigger for that song. We can actually delve into what does that song associate you with, right? It might not be a heartbreak. It may be a trauma that you experience. It may be the abandonment or the rejection of a family member. And you realize that music and the words in music does really, it might help or it might not help you, right? So that can go even like a little bit deeper as well too in terms of music and the therapy of music.
So what made you go into psychotherapy? Because I will say so far you're the first psychotherapist I found locally. I see a lot of them online. In fact, my own therapist is a psychotherapist.
Amazing.
But I've never met any other ones here. So how did you even choose this field?
Okay, so before I chose this field, I actually was a performing artist. Still am on the side. But I but I found that being on stage when I did my bachelor's, I found that I became very analytical and very observant. My friends used to always tell me, Nicollette, you are very, very analytical. You always want to dig deep when stuff doesn't have to dig deep.
It don't
It's
have to
like
be
it
deep.
doesn't have to be deep. But
I disagree by the way.
but I told myself, I was like, what is it really about me that makes me want to dig deep? And I realized that for me, it was something that was internal. My dad was a vital part in that transition for me because he realized as a dancer on the stage, I just used to look straight past the fourth wall, which, you know, I don't look at any audience members when I would perform. I would look past it, right? Theater arts persons do that as well. And then on the side of the stage, before I go on, I'm not nervous. You know, you would get the gist before you go on an interview, before you do anything. I'm not nervous. And I had to, I actually would go through an entire process of mindfulness without even knowing that there's something on mindfulness, right? And then he was like, but you're so calm. You're so regulated. Like, what is it that you're doing? And then I would, you know, ace the stage, right? And I Googled dance and therapy. And I was like, okay, this actually exists. Dance therapy exists. And then I Googled expressive arts therapy and I was like, okay, this actually exists. And then I Googled, okay, but I really don't see myself as an expressive arts person. I see myself using the creative arts because expressive arts is just dance, drama, and music. But creative arts, you can actually use sound, you can actually use play, you can actually use all these different creative modalities to help persons. And I'm like, okay, this is something that I think I can flourish in. And I studied it overseas in New York, and I realized that it was something that was for me very analytical, very observant, and it's just natural. Psychotherapy is not something that makes, for me, I want to be biased, but it's not something that makes persons feel judged. Psychotherapists are very straightforward to people that I know of, very straightforward, and we're very cool beings, right? Because we don't come with any theories. We know the theories, but we don't come with any theories. We actually just meet the person where they're at and we just go from where they are.
So you raised three things here,
I
and I'm
know,
gonna
right?
say it because I might forget it.
No
The
problem.
first one was what your friends used to say to you.
Yeah.
The second one was the issue of mindfulness, which we're gonna come back to.
Okay.
And the last one is this whole labels. So those are the three things in case I forget. But
No
let's
problem.
just go back to that first one. And at the beginning I said, you wouldn't have heard this part, but at the beginning I said, part of the importance of the journey to the self is to reconnecting with the authentic self,
Yeah.
and the person who you were before society told you who not to be,
Yeah.
and who you had to choose not to be to fit in. And what I find interesting in this story is that your friends were telling you, you're too deep, everything isn't deep, let it go. And instead of letting it go, you didn't give up that part of
Yeah.
yourself. You embraced it and looked to see where was it leading you.
Yeah.
But yet the tendency often is to give it up to fit in.
Yes.
Because I mean, I grew up here and I too deep too. In fact, to be clear, people still tell me I too deep, and my friends get tired of me, and I've learned when to turn it off.
Yeah.
Because window of tolerance. You don't
Yeah.
need to overwhelm people. But how would you address that in someone who right now is struggling with a part of themselves they personally don't have a problem with, but the people around them have been essentially barking it down or suggesting be less of it or be more of something else?
Ah, boy. Because
that's how we start to move away from ourselves,
Yes.
or continue to move away from ourselves.
Yes. I love that question because it's something that I explore every day with my clients. And what I tell them at the end of every session is, if you don't be who you are and you don't continue to choose you, then they're going to leave you and you're not going to have any part of you. You're not going to have you at all. They're going to take some part of you with them and they're going to give that part of you to someone else. You've allowed them, but you can actually take that power back because you've given them the power. You can take that back because it's yours.
Oh my God, I feel like that needs to be said again, because I'm hearing this and I'm like, but think of us in romantic relationships, and think of us in parent-child relationships, where we give up so much of ourselves to make this thing work. And you said they take that piece with them and they leave, and you're left with what was left of you, which is probably not who you were originally. You got to say that again, man. I need to memorize.
So if you allow someone to take part of you, that's a choice basically that you're giving them, but you have the power to take that back.
I'm sorry, my close mouth, Michelle. Like, okay, come down.
So I'll repeat again. So I always tell my clients, you have the choice and the power to be you. If you give permission or the choice for someone to take that part of you, then that's not you, right? But also you have the power to take it back because it's yours, right? You can actually be and become that person that you've always wanted to be and to still be in that moment. Because if it is that you allow them to take that part of you, they're going to take it into other relationships. They're going to take it into other spaces. And then they're going to embody that. They're going to embody you. They're going to embody themselves. But then you're left with still you. And that moment, that area, that place that you are left with, that's where you need to rebuild and build on yourself, and you will become your authentic self. Just add it on that part. You will become your authentic self because they didn't take all of you. They didn't take all of you. They just took the part that you gave them permission to take, right? Because you felt comfortable, you felt vulnerable, or whatever it is. But actually, all of that's still instilled in you. It's still there. So you have the power to rebuild it, which might be a friend or a support system or a therapy space that you might just have to allow someone to aid in the rebuilding or the reforming of you, but actually it's still there. So don't feel discouraged that someone has taken a part of you, or they have taken all of you, or desensitized you, or made you feel like you're not enough. You are enough. We say that so loosely, but you are enough because you have something. You have an arm, even if you have one arm, you have two arms, you have one leg, you have something, right? And we tend to forget that even our five senses makes us enough, makes us to be our true self. Our five senses, our main
because it's
five
how
senses.
we perceive the world.
Correct.
You and I will taste a cake and
Correct.
it has different sensations and meanings, but it's the uniqueness of our perception
That's
of the
who
event.
we are.
Yes.
I might taste chicken different to you. I
Yes.
might like my chicken with no seasoning. You don't like it with seasoning.
You're
but
right.
I enjoy my seasoning. I enjoy my chicken with full seasoning, and I enjoy it.
I hope that's a joke.
No, it is a joke, definitely.
thank God.
Trust me. But listen,
Oh.
it's like, no, I love food bad here. I love
I
food.
was a little concerned.
But we have persons that have hypertension and stuff like that, and they feel like on the medical part, like, you know, I can't eat things with no salt, but they might actually enjoy, because it's a coping mechanism, right? They might enjoy food with no salt. Why are we going to take that away from them? Why are we going to say that, you know, you're boring? Why are we going to tell people that? Because then that makes them feel bad about themselves, and then they go into a shell, then they come into a therapy session, and they're like, even eating food with no salt. I've had clients like that. Eating food with no salt or no substance, I get bullied for that. Children with hypertension or diabetes get bullied for that.
And that's the problem with society.
Mm-hmm.
We keep believing we have some right to determine what is right and what is wrong, what is the standard and what isn't, and then telling people who to be.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, leave the person to eat without salt. Who cares? How does it affect your life if they aren't eating salt? But we love to intrude upon. And you know, you say that, and I remember I used to have that problem because I've always been small. I mean, I filled out, and but for years listening to people telling me I should eat more. Every time I went to lunch or whatever, it was this whole conversation about my eating, and it used to make me just not want to go out to eat because I felt like there's so many other things to focus on. Why are we talking about I'm fine with how I eat,
right?
But it literally every time I left, I'd go home ruminating on maybe I could eat some more, maybe because someone gave me reason to doubt what I was already comfortable with in myself. Okay, so that's the first one, and it wasn't lost on me that your father did support you in this choice to be deep. So we do need a little champion. Even if it's just a champion of one, it matters.
Yeah.
Because if the only voice you're hearing is yours, sometimes it's hard to stand out anyway.
Yes, correct.
So that our second one, well, do I want to do mindfulness first? I like mindfulness. I want to stay there a little, but I noticed in earlier when you were talking about, you know, some people might diagnose it as depression, and then when you were talking about kids, you said, you know, disruptive behavior, that sort of thing. Am I correct in getting the sense that you're not necessarily hung onto labels?
Correct.
Explain that.
I mean, I've studied it. We're human, right? We're human. I'm being very straightforward. I'm very real. We're human beings, firstly. And when clients come to me and I ask them, you know, what was your diagnosis or what is your diagnosis? I don't let that lead me for how I take on my sessions.
Ooh, I feel like you might get stuff thrown at you right now. Like.
I mean, I hope it's like popcorn. I hope it's that kind of thing, you know, when you throw like
tomatoes.
Yes, I hope it's popcorn, not tomatoes or eggs. But yeah, I don't allow the diagnosis to control or be the directive or the guider for how I lead my sessions.
Why not? Isn't that the purpose of a diagnosis?
I mean, that is from a psychiatrist, psychological perspective, but from a psychotherapist perspective, we have that as secondary. Our primary focus is the person and the trauma, the subconscious area of the person has nothing to do with the diagnosis. The medication might help him or her to function in my sessions, but it doesn't mean that I don't recommend natural remedies. I don't recommend us to go to the beach and have a session. I don't recommend you joining me in a fitness session at the gym with me. There's no medication with that. There's no diagnosis of that. I'm actually being in the moment with you. I'm not just giving you medication and telling you to go home. I'm just saying.
I would love to explore that, but I'm going to leave it alone for now because I have my own personal biases. I think medication is necessary sometimes.
Yes, correct. Agreed.
To help regulate more extreme forms of behavior.
Agreed.
I hate when it's treated as the end all.
Correct.
In fact, personally, if we could avoid it altogether, I would support any movement that says, let's not go there first.
I have a colleague, mention her, Janelle JC, Chase Mears, brilliant mentor and colleague of mine, a friend. And she doesn't work with children. So when her clients, parents, or mothers or fathers of her reach out to her and say, well, you know, Janelle, I can't deal with my child, or I have a parent or a friend who can't deal with their child. I think they need medication. Janelle calls me up She's like, Nick, just see this child. This child just needs emotional regulation. This child just needs an outlet to help them function or feel safe or feel seen or feel heard. This child just needs a safe, sacred space. And when I see that child just needs that.
Yeah.
Right? And then over a period of time, if I see that it's a reoccurring disruptive behavior, then I would reach out to my colleagues. As I said, it's secondary. I'll reach out to my colleagues and I'm like, okay, ABC has is exhibiting these features. How about you join me in a session and you da 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 da. And they're like, they join me and they're like, okay, Nicollette, I do think that a mild dosage of this or an increased dosage of this may actually help this child. And then me and that psychiatrist, psychologist, we work closely together, and that child functions better. So there are times where I do reach out, but there are times where that child just needs a space that they can just beat a punching bag, and they join me in a space and we go boxing, and or we go in an area and we have a punching bag, and he or she just letting out that anger because mommy or a friend has bullied them or they've been interfered with, and they don't know how to process that feeling, and it's all stored in the body and they don't know what to do with it, right? So then they're lashing out in the classroom or they're lashing out at home, but then really and truly that parent is like, okay, I don't have the tools or the narrative or the language to use to help that child feel, or that adult feel safe that they can come to me. So hey, how can you help me?
This is good because the other point about the medication, like you said, is medicate and send home. So that you have people who are stuck on medication for 10, 15 years who never learned emotional regulation. They never learned to look for, identify, or heal from traumas. All they learned to do was mask feelings they don't like.
Correct.
And that is why I'm so biased toward anything that chooses something else. Anything that allows you to have tools to be able to function, because you can't always be with a psychotherapist.
Yeah, correct.
You won't always have help or emotional or social support, and you need to be able to get yourself out of that rut. Because I remember I saw this thing on YouTube, can't remember the guy, some famous Indian guru, I think it was, and he was essentially saying that he describes suicide as when you put on a jacket that's just too tight, and it's just so very uncomfortable, you really just want to get out of it. And that if you didn't learn that you could hem something at the side or loosen a seam and make yourself fit a little bit, life becomes that thing that's suffocating you. All you want to do is get out. So that if all you had was something that masked it, it begins to feel suffocating. You can't breathe. The only thing you can think of, since the only thing I know how to do is suppress the feelings, and it stays suppressed until the medication wears off.
Right.
I think there's no other life but this.
Right.
And I don't want to live this.
Yeah.
So I try to get out.
Yeah.
But if we taught people, no, we can help you control it for now, and then we're going to teach you how to face it and move away from it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So that you never have to feel that the jacket is too tight, and you might actually want to stay here with us. So it's the bigger picture. I'm very biased when it comes to these things, and I don't deny it. So that this is where we go to mindfulness and engage in the subconscious mind. Tell me about